there, Grateful Gang. It's Lauren Blanchard-Zaleski here. Welcome to Gratefully Living the Chronic Life, where I come to you each Thursday and bring you lessons that we can apply to our lives, to living lives with intention and gratitude despite our struggles. I have a group on Facebook called Attitude of Gratitude with Chronic Pain. Many of you are probably watching. Thank you to our live viewers. Oh, it looks like I'm having trouble streaming somewhere. It looks like the public Facebook page, but it's streaming other places. So not sure what's happening there. But anyway, thank you for being here. Our live viewers, we like to have an interactive broadcast. So please feel free to give us your questions and comments. I have an incredible guest tonight. AJ Jacobs is here with us, who is a gratitude superstar of many, many things, actually, which we'll share in a minute. But first, I want to thank last week's guest. She was amazing. Amy Flores-Young was here with us talking about gratitude and experiences and booking travel. So that was awesome. And then let me show you what we've got coming up the next couple of weeks. If you're watching from in the group, Attitude of Gratitude with Chronic Pain, make sure you grant StreamYard permission to use your name and likeness. We are giving away a book tonight, so you have to give them permission if you want to be eligible to win. Next week, airing Wednesday instead of Thursday, because I was just telling AJ I've got Broadway tickets with my daughter next Thursday. So Wednesday, Bhavani Periyasamy is going to be here with us talking about the importance of saying thank you. She's a gratitude coach, researcher, and advocate. And then the following week, Steve Foran from Canada. He has a company business called Gratitude at Work, talking about gratitude culture in the workplace. He's incredible. I am so humbled each week by the guests that come on the show. It's been gratitude superstar after superstar. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on tonight's guests. I've got AJ Jacobs with us. Hey, AJ.
Hi, Lauren. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. And thank you to Steve Wozniak for inventing the computer so that I could talk to you. And thank you to, I'll stop there. But as you know, we could go on.
We could go on. I was saying, so AJ is a king of immersion journalism, I guess is what you could call him. So you take on these projects and you fully immerse yourself in them. So the main book we're talking about tonight is this amazing book called Thanks 1,000, which is where you take on the task of thanking everybody involved in your precious morning of coffee. I've got a gratitude coffee mug right here for you tonight.
Love it.
But you've done this with various things. You've got other books. You did A Year of Living Biblically, where you tried to live as literally to the Bible as possible, right?
Right. Yeah, that's what I love to do, is just dive in and immerse myself in a lifestyle. And it's almost like method acting, but for writing. And then I try to take away what I can that's good and leave what's bad. So after the Bible, for instance, I shaved off my crazy beard, and I stopped stoning I stoned adulterers with very small stones, like pebbles.
Yeah, tell us about. I wanted to ask you about that. So in The Year of Living Biblically, you tried to literally live as closely as you could to the Bible as a non-practicing Jewish man living in New York City.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And because I wanted to find out what was good about the Bible that I was missing and what maybe was not relevant to my life. And actually gratitude was a huge part of biblical living. So that partly inspired my book on gratitude. But there were lots of other parts. There was following the 10 Commandments, which was very hard, of course. Yeah, there's no coveting. That's a tough one. But it's good. It's good for you. And then there was doing the ones that are maybe less appropriate to modern times, such as stoning adulterers. And that one, as I mentioned, a man came up to me and asked me why I had a huge beard and I was wearing a robe. And I explained I was trying to follow all the rules of the Bible from the 10 Commandments to stoning adulterers. And he said, well, I'm an adulterer. Are you going to stone me? And I said, well, that's wonderful. Thank you for the offer. And I took out my handful of stones because I had been carrying around pebbles for weeks, hoping to
Just on
run
the off
into.
chance that somebody said, "Hey,
Yeah,
I'm an adulterer," and gives you permission.
exactly.
Yeah.
And he was actually quite aggressive. He grabbed the stones out of my hand and threw them at my face. So
Oh.
I thought, yes, I could do an eye for an eye. But that, of course, as you might guess, that is not something that stayed with me. But there were dozens of lessons, of life lessons from that year that I still keep. And as I say, one of the big ones was gratitude. And by the way, speaking of gratitude, I just want to thank you for sending me this awesome book.
Oh,
Uh,
you're
I
welcome.
have teen boys, and this is such a gift because I'm sure you've talked about it on the show, but the prompts are so thoughtful and specific. So it's not just like write something you're thankful for. It's like, write, think of a book, think of a person who helped you. It's great. So I
Thank you.
really am grateful
Coming
for
from
you.
you, that means a whole lot, so thank you. So you've got 3
Absolutely.
teen boys, you said, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. The trickiest part about that was actually finding the quotes because my publisher wanted me to provide gratitude quotes with people who are kind of current to teen boys,
Mm.
gratitude, and they just don't exist. I'm finding YouTubers, but every YouTuber's like, "Oh, no, this one's a racist," and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah,
Right.
that was difficult. So I found a few,
Oh,
but,
you did.
that was
Mindy
hard.
Kaling. My kids love Mindy Kaling.
Yeah, yeah.
Gratitude is the closest thing to beauty manifested in an emotion. Wow, that
I
is
had to search
lovely.
high
Mindy
and low
Kaling.
for that stuff. As
Look
you
at
know
that.
from doing your books, you have to find stuff in the public domain and all that, so it was tricky, but thank you for all right, my computer's freaking out here. Let's go, people. All right. So, tell us about thanks at that well, first, we've got some comments here, I don't wanna get too far behind. Oh, and gang, we're giving away a free copy tonight of Thanks 1,000 because I'm a klutz and I actually have an extra, so, AJ offered to send one, I'm
And
like, "I
and
have
I
an
will
extra."
if they email me, I'll send them a little sticker with a personalized note if they
Awesome.
want.
Thank you. All
Of
you need to
course.
do to win it is, sometime during the broadcast tonight, #gratitude. But you have to make sure you sign in if you're watching from inside the group. Um, so let's talk about Thanks 1,000. So tell us how you did biblically first, and you said there were some messages from that of gratitude, of course, other than stoning people, there are, thankful things too. So that kind of put a spark in your mind to do gratitude.
Right, and I love the rituals of gratitude, but as I mentioned, I'm not particularly religious. So before dinner, I would do a gratitude ritual with my family where I would say, I'd like to thank the farmer who grew the tomatoes that we're going to eat with our spaghetti, and the grocery store clerk who sold me the tomatoes, and my son who was, I guess, about 12 at the time, said, that's fine, I guess, but it's also lame because those people aren't here. They can't hear you. If you really were committed, you would go and thank them in person. And I thought, well, that isn't a very interesting idea. That could be an interesting book. So he earned his supper that night, and I spent the next 6 months uh, embarking on this project to thank everyone who had anything to do with my morning cup of coffee. My son actually wanted me to do something a little more fun, like, s'mores or,
That would have been more fun.
yeah, he was not
Yeah.
happy with the coffee, but I need my coffee. And so
Yeah.
I took it, I sort of took it as like the 6 degrees of gratitude, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. So I thanked the barista, of course, who sold
Yeah,
it
I
to
was
me
gonna
at
say that's
my.
a 6 degrees is an understatement. I mean, you
Yeah,
really,
you're
like,
right, you're right.
on first thought, you think, "All right, thank them more, a cup of coffee, the person that made the mug, the coffee, the grower," you'd think maybe 10. Oh, no, no, you took it much, much further, didn't
Well,
you?
that's it.
Yeah.
Once you start digging, it's just layer after layer because there's the farmer who grew. I did go to South America and thank the farmer, but there's the person who drove the truck full of coffee beans to the roastery, and that person couldn't have driven the truck without the tires. So I had to thank the people who made the tires and the people who got the rubber for the tires, and it went on and on. And I eventually got to 1,000 people, hence the name Thanks 1,000. And I tried to thank them either in person if I could. So I did go to South America. Sometimes I would email them, sometimes I would call them. And it was a fascinating experience because it makes you realize there are hundreds of people that we take for granted uh, in every part of our lives. It doesn't have to be coffee. It could be anything. It could be a pair of socks. It could be a pen. But the amount of people that it requires to make this object a reality is just astounding. And also we talked about this before the show about the negative bias. I certainly have one, and I think and the negative bias is the tendency to notice the 3 or 4 things that go wrong every day instead of the hundreds that go right. And I believe I sort of see it as we all have our Larry David side and our Mr. Rogers side.
Right.
And my Larry David side is actually quite strong. I think that's sort of my default is kind of curmudgeonly, but this was a really powerful way to remind myself of the hundreds of things that go right that I take for granted, and try to turn my mindset from focusing on the 3 or 4 that did go wrong. So it was very powerful.
So you say you weren't naturally a grateful person in the beginning, but you obviously had done some research, because you, in the beginning of the book, you talk about how you'd read some studies about how, it's good for your well-being and all that. So you kind of had that little spark in your head already before you
right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. I knew intellectually how important gratitude is. I mean, the studies better than I do, but that it is it's a hedge against depression, and it is people who are grateful recover more quickly from illnesses, and it makes you more generous, you sleep better. I mean, it's just a mountain of evidence that this is one of the best emotions we have, as Mindy Kaling says.
Yeah.
And I'm interested, are you a naturally grateful person, or did you have to work at it?
I am a naturally grateful person.
Oh, that is nice.
Well, yeah. The gratitude thing really came about after I got sober 9 years ago, because I had a very deep rock bottom, woke up in a hospital having no idea how I'd gotten there. It turned out I had driven in a blackout and passed out behind the wheel of a car. So there isn't a day that goes by that I don't, thank my lucky stars, thank the universe for not being in prison and not being dead and not killing anybody. So I can take, no matter how bad the pain is or whatever, I can go back to that moment like that, even 9 years later, and feel that. But, there were, with chronic pain, and I say chronic pain loosely because not everybody that watches the show lives with chronic physical pain, but we all have some kind of pain, whether it's physical, emotional, or whatever. And so, when you think times are really dark, and they've been dark for many of us, especially these last 2 years, it can be really tough to find gratitude sometimes, even for somebody who's positive in general, like me. So some days it's a stretch, but other days, I like to see the best in people. I'm very trusting, and I do tend to try to see the best in everything. But I do know it requires practice. And you talk about that as well. You can't just say, "Hey, I'm grateful for this cup of coffee," and expect it to work. It really requires a daily ritual, doesn't it?
Right. And I think the more specific you get, which is why I think this is great, you talk about specifically what things in the life. I also wanted to pick up on a thread that you just mentioned about how I think that gratitude is actually it's like a virtuous circle, because when I am forcing myself to go through the motions of feeling grateful, that's when eventually it kicks in. It's really a lot for me about the behavior
You're right.
causing the feeling, because I would wake up many mornings during this project in my sort of dark or grumpy mood, but I would force myself to call these people and thank them. And sometimes it was quite awkward.
I'm sure.
Yeah, some people were like, "Is this a Ponzi scheme? What do you want from me?" But that was actually the minority. The vast
Yeah.
majority were very happy to be thanked. I remember I called this woman who did pest control for the warehouse where the coffee beans were stored. And I called her and I said, I know this sounds a little strange, but I just want to thank you for keeping the insects out of my coffee. And she said, well, that is a little odd, but thank you. Thank you. I don't get a lot of gratitude in
I
my
bet.
business. And she's like, this made my day. And that in turn made my day. So I would, it
I'm
was very
sure.
much of the virtuous circle I mentioned. It reinforces the positive feelings, and she referred to it as a sort of an anti-crank phone call, which I like. This
That's cute.
idea of calling people out of the blue to say something nice instead of to troll them. I think that we should do that more often.
I try to make it a point, not that I've eaten out all that much these last 2 years, but if I go out to eat or something and somebody helping me, wait staff or whatever, is obviously trying their best. I try to always make it a point to say you're very good at what you do. And I can't tell you how many times that has made their face light up and you just don't, like you said before we came on the show, if you helped one person, it will be, completely worth it tonight because you never know when your words are going to change somebody's day,
Yeah, that is
student
great. And you
life.
know what else I love about that is that it's different than thank you. And the phrase thank you is wonderful. I have nothing against it, but it's so common that people can see it as almost a reflex. So I love that you say that in an interest, and that's what I always try to do. I always try to say either, I'm so grateful for you what you did, but even better, I'll try to say like, thank you for being my waiter tonight. I love the way you recommended this, or I love the way you did the pepper grinder. I don't know, but try to find something specific so that they know it's not just a reflex.
Yeah, you actually I lit up like a pinball machine when you said that because you actually have, as you can see, I really like this book a lot.
Thank you.
But you in chapter 3 where you're you tell your wife, what do you say? Oh, I just want to let you know that I'm deeply grateful that you took Lucas to the orthodontist yesterday. And she's like, okay. And you had read a study from Wharton, right? Talking about,
Yeah, this was a
you know,
fascinating study from the business school that they had people who were job applicants right. I believe it's write thank you notes, and some of them wrote just thank you. Others wrote I'm really grateful for X, and that second group got such a bigger reaction, and I can see why because you can tell the person has put thought into it. It's not just a knee jerk.
a knee jerk, right? I said I was going to get to comments earlier and I totally dissed you guys. Sorry, guys. Hey, Linda, thanks for being here. Christine, make sure you guys chime in with your comments and questions. We've got AJ Jacobs here. You can find out more about him and his incredible body of uh, books. He's also done several TED Talks, including one on Thanks a Thousand, which I posted in the group a few times if you're in the group.
Thank you for that.
It's also on my public Facebook page. You've got a great sense of humor. I love how you compare yourself to Larry David and Mr. Rogers. You do have you're like Larry David, but with a smile on your face.
That's a lovely compliment. I really
A
appreciate that.
grateful Larry David, if there is such a thing.
Gonna put that on the back of my
Um,
books.
Hi Heidi. No, couldn't see your name before you wrote it, so you have to sign back in. But thank you for being here. Mary is here. Hi Mary. If you have any questions, we have a lot of people entering for the book. Did your son keep you in check to make sure you weren't going through the motions, but were truly thankful? That's a good
What a
question.
lovely question. Yeah, he came with me on some of the adventures, so that was nice, like to the coffee roastery. And I also loved that he sort of it was a little contagious. I won't say, they became super uh super thankers because they're teenage boys,
Yeah.
but they are far more thankful than I was at their age. And I loved one time uh we were at my mom's house, and so I don't know, she passed the salt, she did something for him, and he said, "Thanks, Grandma." And then he added, "Thanks to your parents for having you, and to their parents for having them."
Aw.
And I just love that idea of the infinite, almost infinite chain of of gratitude. Because yeah, I wouldn't be there. I wouldn't be on Earth without my parents, and they wouldn't be on Earth without their parents. So yeah, it's just a nice reminder.
You have a great quote in the back of the book. I think the very last line, actually. If we connected the world with threads signifying gratitude, the result would be as thick as a blanket. That's a great quote.
Thank you. I had forgotten that, so
Yeah.
that was just like, yeah, that is nice.
Yeah, it is nice.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I actually got that from a great writer named Umberto Eco, who wrote a short story about threads connecting people's lives. But he had this fictional city where the threads were actually real. So everyone was connected and their houses were connected by hundreds of threads. And I've always loved that image. Because it's true, and it's not just gratitude, it's we're connected in so many ways. And so just reminding ourselves of that, I think, is crucial.
I agree, and that's why I'm very passionate about my group attitude of gratitude with chronic pain, because of the connection aspect. All right, now I've just blown your entire head up, so you're taking up the whole screen. I can't see anything else. All right, well, if you can still see
Wait,
me, we're in good shape. I'll try to
how
get a
about
picture
that?
in.
Does that help?
No, you're fine. I just don't know what
Oh,
I'm such a
okay.
klutz. I'll get back there. But anyway, the connection aspect, we can gratitude journals and all of that, all of the whatever you do as your gratitude practice is a wonderful thing. But studies show that if you can do it with other people in connection, shared in a shared environment, it really helps to foster the power of the entire thing. So
Yeah, I mean, the community to me, that's so important. And actually, as part of this book, when it came out a while ago, few months ago, I to market it, I said, I'm going to write 1,000 handwritten thank you notes to readers. And at first I was like, should I get them to send me a receipt to prove that they had bought the book? And I'm like, that doesn't seem like very great. That's like going to get. So I just said, honor system. If you've read any of my
nice.
books or enjoyed any at the library or anything, then fill out this form on my website and tell me about yourself, and I will write a handwritten note. And it was a pain in the ass. I mean,
I
it was,
bet.
or a pain in the hand, like, it was actually, and it took me literally a year to do, because 1,000 is far more
It's a
than I
lot.
yeah, and that's a lot. But and I wanted to make them all very personal, so people would write me wonderful notes about how my books had affected them, but also with some of them were just delightfully weird. I love dogs and tacos. Can you draw me a picture of a dog and a taco? So I would do my best, but it was just this, and then they would write me back, and it was this feeling of community that you talk about that was just so powerful. Because
I
yeah.
tell you, there's nothing like it. You know what I got this week? And I know you had a talk a couple weeks ago at a book signing with Gina Hamady, right?
Oh yes, I love
She,
Gina. Have you had her on the show?
she was on the show a couple months ago,
Oh, good.
and I sent her a teen boy journal as well for her sons, and I got a thank you note from her in the mail today, which I'm going to use as my bookmark for her book.
Oh, perfect. Of
So
course. That's
yeah,
good.
so
She
what you're talking
practices
about,
what she preaches.
she's yeah, it was wonderful getting a thank you note from her, but just in general, like the handwritten notes is such an art form, a lost art form nowadays. And it's so mindful. But for the person writing, like when you're actually writing the thank you note, but also receiving one, knowing that that person, their entire focus was on you for that couple minutes, that's a really great feeling. 1,000 thank you notes, AJ. That's a lot. That's amazing.
Well, I will say, like we were discussing, I might start. I had a sort of a goal to write 10 a day, and if I would, at the beginning of the hour, I would be annoyed, but because I'm like, I've got so much else to do. But by the end, I would be in a good mood. It was weird the effect it had on me, just the writing of these notes. So that's a wonderful coincidence, I think, that evolution has given us, is that doing something kind or expressing gratitude to others makes us feel good. So I'm very happy with evolution for creating that.
I agree. And it's really refreshing. Not to bring sex into this, but so in Attitude of Gratitude with Chronic Pain, it's been for about 7.5 years. We've had the group. We've consistently been at 98% women, not by choice, because, up until the past year or so, I'm seeing a shift now. More and more men are joining.
Great.
Excuse me. And I know it's not because men are not living with chronic pain and illness, because they are. So I couldn't figure out, is it that they don't think gratitude's a real thing, or they think it's too woo-woo? I know a lot of men are like real problem solvers. So they think like, if it's not going to be a cure, then maybe it's not real. But I'm seeing such a shift lately, that letting so many men in, and that makes me really, really happy.
That is great. Do you have any theories of why that is?
I think people like you, men talking about, I think the studies that have been coming out, the scientific studies showing actual proof, and that it's not just some woo-woo new agey thing.
Right, right.
I don't know. For me, it was years, for my chronic condition, at least, it was years and years of trying to cure myself with medications and therapies and all of that. You did a book also about your year of living your most healthy person, right? So you could see how you can get caught up in this stuff.
Right.
Internet and, doctor to doctor. I'm close enough to Manhattan and Philly. I could see great doctors. Excuse me. And I just made myself crazy, for lack of a better word, but it sunk in such a deep depression, because with each failed thing, it would just make me so resentful and angry and all of that. So while I cannot solve my condition, I can change my reaction to the situation, right? And that's when gratitude comes in.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And that is such an important lesson. And I mean, I don't have physical chronic pain. I do struggle with depression and other types of mental pain, but I love your lesson of, it's never going to be perfect, and learning to accept. So that, I guess, to me, gratitude is a close cousin with acceptance. I am a fan. I've been working on acceptance a lot and read a couple of great books on radical acceptance.
Yeah.
And I think, to me,
Tara Brach.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, she's great. So I guess they might be three of my favorite emotions or drives are curiosity, gratitude, and acceptance, I would say. And actually, I'm not allowed to talk about it, but I'll just bring it up a little, because I have a book coming out in April about my love of puzzles. And it's basically an ode to curiosity, because I do think, and also I think curiosity and gratitude are kind of cousins, because this book, Thanks 1,000, where I went around the world, it was also driven by curiosity. Like, how does my coffee come to be?
Such a good point. I've never thought about that before.
Yeah.
You're right. They say gratitude, you have a sense of wonder and awe, but you don't have that without that curiosity. That's such a great point.
There you go. Yeah.
So How did you come up with all these people you wanted to thank on this journey? Did you come up with a list in the beginning, or did it just kind of morph?
Well, a couple of different ways. Certainly, every person that I interviewed, I would ask, "Who are you grateful for? Who helped you with your job?" And they always had, lots of people. So the barista that I started with, I said, Who are you grateful for?" And she said, "Well, of course, I'm grateful for this guy, Ed Kaufman, who buys the coffee. He goes around the world and tastes and finds the best beans." And so that was one method. Another method was just brainstorming, or reading about the history of coffee. So I thanked the people who were in the Boston Tea Party, because coffee became a little bit more American after the Boston Tea Party. When they threw the British tea off, it was seen as patriotic to drink coffee instead of tea. So I'm grateful for them. But if I can just circle back to Ed Kaufman for a second, because it sparked a little point that I wanted to stress, which was he's this guy who goes around the world, as I say, goes to Africa and South America and tastes the coffee for the little mini coffee chain that I go to called Joe Coffee. And what I learned from him was the importance of savoring, which I also think is a very close cousin of gratitude.
Yeah.
Because he taught me how to taste coffee like a pro, and it's quite a ritual. So you take a sip, and then you have to you slurp it. I won't do it because it's very loud, and but I want to hear you do it. Yeah, there you go. Because you have to aerate the coffee. You have to get it all over your mouth, because there are taste buds in your cheeks.
I was going to say kind of like a wine, but that was so 9 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah, these guys are more hardcore than any wine people I've ever met, which is crazy.
I feel like the flavor's on my tongue now.
Well, that's it. That's what he taught me. He said, he would do it, and he would say, "Oh, I'm tasting pineapple and cedar and dried mango," and I would taste it, and I say, "Tastes like coffee to me." But he encouraged me to just let it sit there on the tongue for a couple of seconds and really focus on the texture and the sweetness, the tartness, and I thought that was such a lovely lesson. And I talked to psychologists about this and this idea of savoring, and it could be food, but it could just be like, waiting in line and savoring the paintings on the wall. It's just a way to slow down time and really almost curate a moment so that we don't forget it, because otherwise life, it can just flip by like a flip book, and we remember nothing.
Curate a moment. I love that. So true. And the more we slow down, and become mindful in the moment, that's when you can find those 6 degrees of things to be grateful for. You can be grateful that you've got clean, drinking water coming out of your tap at home. And then you think to, like, I know you went to the water treatment place for the coffee and all of that. Like, you really start to think of all of those 6,000 degrees of gratitude when you stop to slow down and savor. I love that. Curating a moment. That's great. If you guys have any questions for AJ Jacobs, please feel free to ask away. If you'd like to win a copy of Thanks 1,000, all you have to do in the comments, type in #gratitude. And let's see, we have any comments here. Saw someone, woven garment of destiny. Oh, did Martin Luther King say that? I did not know that.
Wow.
Awesome.
Obviously, he's better with the words, but that is lovely.
Well, I don't know. You just came up with curate the moment. I'm not sure if MLK ever said
that. It's not quite. I have a dream, but it is. You had mentioned water, which actually I think about a lot, because I talk about it in the book. Coffee is 98.6% water, and it's just a little bit of the coffee bean powder. And so I had to thank the people who made my water possible. I live in New York City, So I went to the folks who tend to the reservoir, and there are thousands of scientists and park
Really?
rangers, and it really is remarkable. And it made me rethink, the old cliche, glass half full, glass half empty. I have decided a better way to look at it is that we should be amazed that there is any water in the glass at all. Any drink,
Mm,
it could be 10%, could be 20, could be 80%. Just the fact that we're able to turn a metal knob and have drinkable water come out of a spout is something that I took for granted my entire life. But
you're right.
it's not something. I mean, first of all, 99% of human history, we didn't have that, and there are billions of people still living in the world who have to walk miles to get clean water,
Mm,
and so we should remember that. And and that actually brings up another point that I love about gratitude is that it can be a spark for action. I think there are some people who worry that being grateful is the same as being complacent. Oh,
right,
I'm just so grateful for everything. I'm not going to try to change. But actually the studies show the opposite,
right.
that the more grateful you are, the more you want to pay it forward, the more you want to help others to be grateful for other things. So yeah, being aware of how lucky I am to have water, it sparked me to look into what are the best water charities. And, I'm not expecting a
Amazing.
Nobel Prize. I didn't go dig any wells, but it just reminds you, I think, to look outside of yourself, which ironically, I think helps your own happiness. The more you look
Absolutely.
outside yourself to help others, the happier you can become.
For sure. Yeah, and it gets us out of our own head and out of our own problems, even if only briefly.
Right.
And it's actually a perfect day for you to be on because today is National Random Acts of Kindness Day.
Oh, I
And
didn't know
so
that.
did you not know that? Yeah.
No. Did
Um,
you?
this is one great big random act of kindness you did
Yeah,
here in a
that
lot
it
of
is.
ways. So what were some of the other things that you found? What were some of the things you found surprising in this detour to thank everybody for your cup of coffee?
Um, I guess I was surprised, by how much, how much how many little masterpieces there are in the world that I never really appreciated. Uh, and this kind of was sparked by when I called the guy who designed the lid for my coffee cup.
I love that
And
one.
he was so passionate. He had me on the phone for like 2 hours telling me all about, and he could have gone on, "Nice sipping."
Thanks.
Yeah. Uh, but he was, yeah, he talked about how coffee is all a lot about aroma. So he wanted to make sure the hole in the lid was big enough to get the aroma out.
Yeah, you go
And
into a lot of detail when you talk about that, it's fascinating.
yeah, and just the way he designed the hole so that it spouted in the correct way. And I realized all these objects around me that people put so much thought and care and passion into, and I just never. And for instance, I have a little desk lamp with a switch that has an indentation for my thumb, so that and as someone thought of that, and that's something. I think that this was actually a line added by my editor, so I wanna thank my editor for giving me this idea. But she said, "When something is done well, we, uh, we ironically, that's when we don't notice it. We notice something when it's not done perfectly." So really just going out of your way to notice these little masterpieces that are almost invisible in our daily lives.
Yeah, I bet that guy doesn't get thanked ever for his lid. I bet he
Yeah.
was thrilled to talk to you about this.
He was very happy, but I have to tell you, he seemed to love his job because the way he pictured it is he was helping people get this wonderful coffee experience. He said, a bad coffee lid, you can do everything right from the farm all the way up to pouring the coffee, and then a bad lid can
Oh,
ruin it
it's the
all.
worst. You can have a dribble lid, and it makes the whole coffee drinking experience terrible, doesn't it?
Exactly.
So you had many different kinds of reactions when you were thanking people. What were some of the other reactions you were getting from people? Some thought it was a Ponzi scheme, but you had
Yeah,
some good ones and then some.
there were some
Yeah.
I mean, it was interesting. I would some of the, I thanked some companies, uh, and I acknowledge that. Well, I will tell you I'll get to your answer in 1 second, but I do want to say I had some moral qualms, for instance, because I care about the environment, but I had to thank Exxon because they did provide the gas for the truck that drove the coffee beans. So I was like, what do I do here?
Interesting.
So what I came up with was the most passive aggressive thank you letter in history. So I wrote something like, thank you for the gasoline that drove the coffee truck so that I could get my coffee. I love my coffee. And I realized it would not have happened without that. Um, I just want to say that I really hope to continue drinking coffee in the future, and coffee may not be around if climate change continues at the rate it does. So I hope we can find alternative fuels that are better. And I didn't.
You think that's passive aggressive, AJ? I'm not really sure.
You think it's just well, I didn't get a response for that one.
Oh,
So,
no, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, so I would thank the companies. So, like, I remember I thanked uh, Glad. I tried to thank everything in the coffee shop that allowed them to have a successful coffee shop, and they had garbage bags, of course. So I sent off a note to Glad, and I think this may not happen always. They may have Googled me and seen that I am a writer, and writing a book about gratitude. But I got like a big box of free, like Glad products, like Glad garbage bags, and I felt that for my project, I should, express my gratitude by giving it to others. That it would be a little counter to my project if I just collected a bunch of
Yeah,
material goods from it.
the back of the book is a very, very extensive list. You go into an enormous amount of detail thanking everybody, which it's really inspiring. I actually had a good time reading through the safety patrol, the water, the cup makers, like very lengthy
Oh
list.
yeah, that was
Everybody.
1,000. That was hard to do, I have to
I
say. That
bet.
took a long time. And I also liked the doing the historical because like for instance, Teddy Roosevelt was the one who enacted the Food Safety Act. So he has saved my stomach from many bad days. So I emailed like the Teddy Roosevelt Library or something, and I got a lovely note back.
Did you?
And yeah, they were very excited that I acknowledged his contributions. So yeah, because it's not just current people that we should be grateful for. Like, there are centuries of people who have made sacrifices to allow us to be where we are now.
Yeah. I needed Teddy Roosevelt's people a couple of weeks ago. I had to validate a quote of his. Comparison, it's the thief
Oh,
of joy. Could not validate it for
oh,
the new book, but I
oh,
think
great! And was it his?
it's in quote investigator. It could be, but others say not. But they still let it go to
He
Teddy.
has actually. I quote. I don't. I should go on quote investigator because he has a story that he told, but I want to get the exact words right. But it was all about how he was out west, and this was, I think, after his mother and his wife died, or he had suffered some tragedy. So he went out west to sort of hang out with the cowboys and try to regain his sanity. And someone asked him, "Aren't you scared when you are out there, with the animals and you never know what's going to happen?" And he said, "Well, I am scared, but I act as if I'm fearless, and eventually I become more courageous." And I love that notion. And that's one we talked about right at the start. Like when you act grateful, if you go through the motions, your mind sometimes catches up.
It does. There's studies that show that even smiling, they say if you put a half smile on your face, helps the serotonin get to your brain. It may feel a little bit silly, but it actually works. And then the gratitude, the more you practice it, it is a muscle. So the more you practice it, the easier it gets. That negativity bias is always going to be there. It just takes us a lot of extra work to, stay on top of it. Otherwise, it's easy to get caught up in our issues.
Yeah. Oh, is it okay if I was checking out the comments and I saw a lovely one. AJ, I love your premise of savor, curiosity, and deep research into everyday items. Participants in this process can't wait to read your book. Betty, thank you, Betty. That is lovely. I appreciate it.
I can't even see Betty's comment.
Really?
Yeah, I'm having issues tonight, but
well,
thank you, Betty.
Yeah, woven garment. Christine said that she likes the idea of being specific with our thanks. Yeah. I totally agree. And so those are, the others are just very nice thank yous and thumbs up and hearts.
A lot of people entering to win #gratitude. You get a free copy.
Yeah, and so on my website, it has a link to my email. So if you feel like it, thank you.
Here's your website, jacobs.com.
If you feel like it, no pressure, but you can email me your address and I will send you a handwritten note. And if you feel inspired, tell me a little about yourself so I can personalize the note, the little signing sticker.
You are so thoughtful. You're such a busy guy with all of your work. How has I know you've talked not only in your TED Talk that's based on this, but in other talks you've done since then. How has this left a profound impact on your life today, this whole project with gratitude?
Well, I think it's had a huge impact. I mean, I still struggle. I am definitely, as I say, it is, for me, it's really a practice, a discipline. But this has reminded me just how important that discipline is. And so I have various things I do. Every morning I write a little note to my mom saying something I'm grateful for, and she writes one back to me. I do, when I'm trying to fall asleep at night, I try to go through the alphabet.
That's a good tip.
And think of something that I'm grateful for that starts with that letter. So it could be,
instead of counting sheep, gang, you can do
counting
gratitude. That's a great idea.
And I don't start with A because I'm, then I would run out of A. So I might start with L, and I'll be thankful that Lauren had me on her wonderful show. And now M. So M is I'm thankful for this movie I'm watching with my wife. Even though it's a little dark, it's about Ted Kaczynski. So I'm grateful really? I'm not Ted Kaczynski. There's another one. Christine likes the alphabet idea. So thank you, Christine. Yeah, I find it super. And actually, I use that.
AJ, you should just run the show now because my comments stopped it. I don't know what's going on. I told you I was a tech klutz, but for some reason, I'm only getting a certain amount of comments. So if you see anything good, just shout it out. Sorry, gang.
All right. Nope, they're all good. They're all good. And that is actually something, when this book came out, I wrote a piece for the New York Times about Thanksgiving, because I found that just going around the table and saying one thing that you're grateful for, it's good, but it kind of got rote. And people would say the same, grateful for family, I'm grateful for friends, I'm grateful for my Nintendo Switch. It was always the same. Right. So I try to shake it up every year so that it's, tell a story of one person that you're grateful for who did a little something that they probably didn't even realize that they did, but that still was like this woman who, when I was a freshman in high school, and I wrote a poem for the school literary magazine, and I was embarrassed, and she just said, "That was a wonderful poem." And I still think of that, like, 30, whatever, 40 years, whatever it is, so many years later. And it's,
And now you're a writer. Did she
and
have
I'm
something to do with that, you think?
right.
A kind
But
note can give you that confidence you need, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
And it didn't cost her anything, and
right.
I have no doubt she had no memory of that at all. But so anyway, I like mixing it up, the gratitude rituals, trying to keep them creative, like this terrific book by
You're very
Lauren.
sweet, AJ. Thank you. Can't believe AJ Jacobs is talking about my book. I feel quite
It's a
humbled.
great book. It's a
Thank
great
you.
book. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And speaking of teen boys, how I know what the impact has been on you. How about for your boys? Have you noticed, um, are they more receptive to gratitude now? Do they recognize after your project and all of that, I know teen boys are a hard thing. I kind of laugh at myself because I'm like, I'm kind of responsible for telling two subsets of people to be grateful: people with chronic pain and teenage boys. Like, you can't pick two, less grateful. Not really, but it's tough. Teen boys are tough. But after seeing,
Right.
your experience, how is it?
Well, I think,
Come to them?
you get what they say to me, and then what I think maybe sunk in. So, one of my sons actually, I don't know if he still does, but he kept a lovely gratitude journal for a while,
Nice.
which was terrific. And uh, and they are also one thing I am. They don't thank me very much, which is fine, but they are so good at thanking, the bus driver. They're so good at
That's
thanking,
great.
yeah, anyone who's in a service industry, that they say, they are remarkable. And I don't know, they might have done that anyway, but it certainly makes me so happy to see.
I'm sure. Our kids, being grateful is a wonderful thing. And, it's been a tough year on everybody for the past 2 years, but, in particular, kids and teens. I know we were talking a little bit before the broadcast. It's been a really rough road for them. So,
Yeah.
if you're teaching your kids how to show appreciation to people, I was reading some studies when I was writing that journal about how, teens are kind of getting their sea legs on when it comes to adulthood. They don't want to be, thanking anybody or feeling like they owe anybody anything, so gratitude can be very tricky for them. They want to
Yeah.
feel like adults, and they can do it all on their own. And so it's a very fine line.
Right.
It sounds
Well,
like
that reminds me, actually, I was proud of this, because I wouldn't have thought of it, but one of my sons, for the holidays, instead of buying gifts, he wrote texts to people about things that he appreciated about them. Uh,
wow,
isn't that
that's
lovely?
amazing.
Yeah, that was very nice.
That is
That was
nice.
very nice. By the way, this is just a random thing that popped into my mind because it's somewhat related. I have another friend whose favorite gifts are recommendations of movies and books. So, because he he will sit down and he'll think about it. He'll think about what you might like, what your personality is, and really do some research and come up with a couple of great suggestions, because he's like, if you recommend a show to someone that they like and they watch, 100 episodes, you have given them this amazing gift that
Such a great idea. Oh my
isn't that
god.
nice?
That's a totally perfect for National Random Act of Kindness Day. What a
Oh,
great
yeah,
thing
that's
that
a
you
good
can
idea.
do no matter what your physical abilities are. That is a fantastic idea. We ask that question in the group quite a bit. What are you binge watching right now? And you get some really good suggestions. All right. I can't get any comments. What do we have anything new coming in?
I don't
Sorry,
see
Jenny.
anything new,
All
but
right. We have another couple minutes with AJ. Get hashtag gratitude in if you want to win a copy of Thanks a Thousand. So your wife must be a saint with all these projects that you undertake, that you're living biblically and all that. I would imagine out of all of your projects, this one was probably a very pleasant one for her, but she's very patient woman, isn't she?
That's right. This one was one of her favorite where I
Yeah.
went. I mean, I did have to go on some trips, but other than that, she liked it. But yes, she is definitely patient because some of my projects, they have good parts and they've got bad parts. So hopefully I've come out a better person at the end. But for instance, with the Year of Living Biblically, the Bible says that you cannot shave the corners of your beard. And I didn't know where the corners were, so I just let the whole thing grow, and I just had this crazy topiary hanging from my chin, and she was horrified, and so she literally did not kiss me for like 7 months.
Really?
Yeah, so
You guys
she
have to, if you go on YouTube and look up AJ Jacobs with the Year of Living Biblically, you will see a video of him in his gown with the sandals,
it's true.
beard, walking through Central Park. It's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I think, how did I have the nerve to do that? Because it was like almost like, as I say, method acting. It's almost like I had to take on a character because I truly looked insane.
You look great. It's really refreshing to read your writing because you come at it with such a witty outlook, and you go all in. So who doesn't want to read something? All right. So I finally get Betty's comment like an hour later. All right. So I'm getting the comments.
Oh, and Betty just wrote another lovely one. She said,
Did?
"I just bought your book. I can't wait to read it. Really enjoyed listening to you and Lauren."
Oh, I bet that's my Aunt Betty. Hi, Aunt
That's
Betty.
Aunt Betty?
I think it
Oh,
might be Aunt Betty. Yep.
hi, Aunt Betty. Well,
Yep.
thank you
So
for helping to
great.
bring up Lauren. You did
Oh,
a
that's
good
very
job.
nice. All right, so let's give away a book. Before we do that, though, let me just say again. So to reach AJ, find out all about all his other books. We could really spend 7 hours going through all his other books, but he did a year of trying to be the healthiest version of himself he could be. You did a year of reading the encyclopedia for another one. What was that one called?
Right. That was called The Know-It-All.
Yeah,
Right. I tried to be as healthy as possible, mentally and physically. And I tried to, speaking of your Aunt Betty, I tried to build a family tree of the entire world to show
that's
that
right.
we're all related. So yeah, no, I've been very lucky to find projects that are big enough that they are almost endlessly interesting to me.
They're fascinating. I told AJ before we came on, I'm like, you must be the king of getting asked to be on shows and podcasts because you're like an expert on everything because you go all in. So
Well,
that
thank you, Lauren, and Christine wrote, "Thank you both for a great hour." Thank you,
oh,
Christine.
thanks for being here. Let's try, if Lauren can get her act together, let's try to give away
How are you gonna
um,
do it? How do you
well, I have a share screen thing if I can get there. Let me take off this, see if I can get this going. So if people wrote in #gratitude, I have like the StreamYard has this program that it will take everybody's comments. But let's see, can I get this here?
and then
There we
it'll
go. All
randomly.
right. So good luck, everybody.
Oh, thank you, Jill. Jill said it's been fabulous. Oh, there, look at that.
Cool, right?
Roulette. It's roulette.
So as much as I'm a tech klutz, I do have some redeeming qualities. Winner
Alex.
is Lisa Holst.
Lisa.
Congratulations, Lisa.
Thank
So,
you. Great.
Maybe AJ, maybe you can mail me your signature on the card, and then I could mail the whole thing out to Lisa. Would that work?
That's fine. That's
Great.
fine. And if Lisa wants to email me anything that she wants on the card, that's fine. Or she can just, I'll just write it to Lisa.
Congratulations, Lisa.
And Lauren, thank you again. It was such a lovely hour. It put me in a good mood. I was kind of in a bad mood after watching the Ted Kaczynski movie. Like, people can be horrible.
You're supposed to be grateful you're not Ted Kaczynski.
Exactly. But you do a wonderful service and bring joy to people's lives. So I really appreciate it.
It is contagious, isn't it? Like you were saying, it's contagious. It feels good to get outside of ourselves and help others. And I had decided before we came on the air, I'm an immersive journalist too. I decided to immerse myself into chronic pain and illness 22 years ago. And then I immersed myself very much into alcohol and then immerse myself into rehab, and I'm totally immersed into recovery and the growth, personal development. So I'm very immersive.
Good. Yes. I like this last phase, I think, is the healthier one. So
I think so too. I think I'll stick with it for a while. So AJ Jacobs, thank you for being here with us and sharing
Thank you again, Lauren.
Your work and your hour and your thoughts on gratitude. Gang that's been watching live, thank you so much for contributing. My apologies for the tech difficulties. And next week, I'll be with you Wednesday night instead of Thursday. And again, ajjacobs.com. You can find out all about AJ's work. Bye, gang. See you next week.
Thank you for coming.